Your refrigerator might be poisoning your food. Yes, the very place you trust to keep it fresh could be destroying its nutrients, ruining its flavor, and even creating hidden toxins. Every single day, millions of people unknowingly turn healthy ingredients into harmful ones. All because of one innocent habit: putting the wrong foods in the fridge. And some of these mistakes? They could be silently damaging your health right now. Let's expose the 9 foods you should never refrigerate. Starting with number 9, potatoes. This might sound surprising, but when you put potatoes in your refrigerator, you're not just storing them. You're setting off a chain reaction that transforms their very chemistry. It's not only a matter of taste or texture, it's about creating compounds that have serious health implications. In cold conditions, potatoes undergo a process called cold-induced sweetening. Essentially, the starches inside them begin converting to sugars at a much faster rate than they would at normal storage temperatures. On its own, this might not seem like a big deal. But the danger becomes clear once those potatoes are cooked at high temperatures: roasting, frying, or baking. The excess sugars combine with amino acids to form acrylamide, a chemical the International Agency for Research on Cancer classifies as a probable human carcinogen. A comprehensive study from the University of Idaho tested over 500 potato samples across different varieties. The result was consistent. Potatoes stored at refrigerator temperatures showed a 300% increase in sugar content within just 2 weeks. That's triple the sugar in less than half a month. This transformation happens far more quickly than most people realize. And it's not just about chemistry. The structure of the potato itself changes. Cold breaks down the cell walls, making the texture gritty and altering the flavor to an unpleasant, overly sweet taste. Ever noticed your mashed potatoes tasting strange or oddly grainy? The culprit could very well be your fridge, damaging the potato at the cellular level before it even hits the pot. How to store them instead? Keep potatoes in a cool, dark location. Around 45–50 degrees Fahrenheit is ideal. A pantry, cellar, or even a simple cardboard box in a dark closet will do. Darkness matters because light triggers the production of solanine, the green pigment that makes potatoes toxic. Use paper bags or baskets to allow airflow. Never use plastic bags, which trap moisture and encourage rot. Here's a pro tip: store potatoes well away from onions. Both release gases that accelerate the spoilage of the other. Keep them at least 3 feet apart. Under these conditions, potatoes can last up to 3 months. In the fridge, they'll be ruined in 2 weeks. Number 8. Bread. Most people believe that refrigerating bread will keep it fresh longer. Unfortunately, the science tells us the exact opposite. The fridge is actually making your bread go stale at a dramatically faster rate. The reason lies in a natural process called starch retrogradation. When bread is exposed to cold temperatures, the starch molecules crystallize much more quickly, pushing out moisture and leaving the bread hard and dry. Researchers at the Institute of Food Technologists tracked the firmness of breadcrumbs over time and discovered that bread stored in the fridge staled 6 times faster than bread kept at room temperature. 6 times. They found that within just 3 days, refrigerated bread had become significantly harder and crumblier, while bread at room temperature stayed soft and palatable for a full week. But it's not just the texture that suffers. Cold storage also destroys the volatile organic compounds, the delicate aroma and flavor molecules that give fresh bread its irresistible smell and taste. When these compounds break down, what you're left with is bread that tastes flat and lifeless, almost like cardboard. How to store it instead? Keep bread in a bread box or paper bag at room temperature. The container should allow a bit of airflow to prevent mold, while still holding enough humidity to keep the bread soft. If you know you won't finish a loaf within a week, here's the best approach: slice it first, then freeze it. Freezing preserves bread far better than refrigeration, because the process happens so quickly that ice crystals don't have time to damage the structure. When you want a slice, take it directly from the freezer to the toaster. Never let it thaw first, as thawing is when moisture problems start. Number 7. Honey. Honey is one of nature's most remarkable foods, and one of the few that truly never spoils. Archaeologists have uncovered jars of honey in Egyptian tombs, over 3,000 years old, that were still perfectly edible. But put that same honey in your fridge, and within weeks you'll have compromised its quality. Cold temperatures cause honey to crystallize rapidly. That smooth, golden liquid turns into a grainy, solid mass that doesn't dissolve easily. While crystallization itself isn't harmful, it changes the honey's texture, making it harder to use and less enjoyable. More importantly, refrigeration introduces moisture into the jar. Each time you open it, condensation forms, and that water content is honey's biggest enemy. Moisture can dilute honey, reducing its natural ability to inhibit microbial growth. A study from the National Honey Board found that honey stored at temperatures below 50 degrees Fahrenheit lost up to 35% of its antimicrobial properties. These are the very compounds that make honey such a powerful natural preservative and healer. Honey's complex flavor is also at risk. It contains over 180 different compounds that contribute to its taste profile. In cold storage, these compounds break down unevenly, leaving even the most expensive raw honey tasting like cheap syrup. How to store it instead? Keep honey at room temperature, 64-75 degrees Fahrenheit, in a tightly sealed container. Store it away from direct sunlight, which can degrade its quality. If your honey crystallizes, don't throw it out. Simply place the jar in warm water and stir gently until it returns to liquid form, without losing any of its beneficial properties. And here's a little-known fact. Darker honey varieties contain more antioxidants than lighter ones, but they're also more vulnerable to cold damage, making proper storage even more important. Number 6. Coffee. For coffee lovers, this one might hurt. Your refrigerator is your coffee's worst enemy. Coffee beans are incredibly porous, meaning they absorb odors and flavors from their environment like a sponge. That leftover Chinese takeout, the wedge of blue cheese, the faint smell of fish. All of it can end up in your morning brew if your beans share fridge space. But odor absorption is only part of the problem. The constant temperature changes every time you open and close the fridge door create condensation on the beans. This moisture speeds up the aging process and can even lead to mold growth. The Specialty Coffee Association found that refrigerated coffee beans lose 60% of their aromatic compounds within just 1 week. The oils in coffee beans, the very oils that hold most of the flavor, also solidify in cold temperatures. Grinding cold beans means these oils don't extract properly during brewing, leaving you with a weak, flavorless cup. How to store it instead? Keep coffee in an airtight, opaque container at room temperature, 60-70 degrees Fahrenheit, away from light, heat, and moisture. Buy only as much as you can use within 2 weeks of opening the bag. For long-term storage, freezing is actually better than refrigerating. But there's a catch. Portion the coffee into small, airtight bags before freezing. Remove only what you need and never refreeze, as repeated freezing and thawing causes irreversible moisture damage. Number 5. Garlic. Garlic is famous for its bold flavor and powerful health benefits, but store it in the fridge and you'll lose both, fast. The cold, damp environment of a refrigerator encourages garlic to sprout. Those green shoots aren't just unattractive, they taste bitter and can cause digestive discomfort. Worse, the same conditions can promote the growth of mold, and some molds produce mycotoxins, toxic compounds that can be harmful even in small amounts. Research from the University of California, Davis showed that refrigerated garlic loses 50% of its allicin content within just 10 days. Allicin is the compound responsible for garlic's antibacterial, antiviral, and heart protective effects. Without it, garlic becomes little more than a bland seasoning. The fridge also affects garlic's texture. Cold temperatures break down its cell walls, turning the cloves mushy and sticky. Try mincing refrigerated garlic, and you'll find it turns into a paste that sticks to your knife, your cutting board, and your fingers, instead of cleanly chopped pieces. How to store it instead? Keep coffee in an airtight, opaque container at room temperature, 60-70 degrees Fahrenheit, away from light, heat, and moisture. Never seal it in plastic or any airtight container. Garlic needs to breathe. Keep it out of direct sunlight, which can cause bitterness, and away from the stove, where heat and humidity accelerate sprouting. Stored properly, a whole head of garlic can last up to 6 months. Once you break the bulb, use the individual cloves within 10 days for maximum flavor and health benefits. And here's a bonus tip. Room temperature garlic releases its essential oils more effectively than cold garlic, making your dishes far more aromatic and flavorful. Number 4. Bananas. Bananas and refrigerators are a nutritional disaster waiting to happen. If you've ever put bananas in your fridge, you've probably seen the skin turn dark and the texture go mushy. But the real damage goes far beyond appearance. Cold temperatures cause what scientists call chilling injury. Bananas are tropical fruits. In their natural environment, they never experience cold. Their cells simply aren't built to handle it. When you expose them to refrigerator temperatures, the cell membranes rupture, enzymes leak out, and the fruit begins to break down from the inside out. A study from the Queensland Department of Agriculture found that bananas stored below 56 degrees Fahrenheit lose up to 80% of their vitamin C within just 5 days. That's not all. They also stop producing new nutrients entirely. Under normal conditions, bananas continue to develop beneficial compounds like antioxidants and phytonutrients as they ripen. Refrigeration freezes this process completely, leaving you with a fruit that looks fine on the inside but has far less nutritional value. That blackened skin you see on refrigerated bananas? It's more than cosmetic. It's a warning sign. The dark, blotchy patches signal that the banana's natural defense systems have failed. Those brown spots are areas of dead fruit tissue, a perfect hiding place for bacteria and mold, even before they become visible. How to store them instead? Keep bananas at room temperature, ideally between 56 degrees Fahrenheit and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Use a banana hook to hang them. This reduces bruising and allows air to circulate evenly. Bananas naturally produce ethylene gas, which encourages ripening. In an open environment, that gas dissipates at the right rate. Want to control ripening speed? To ripen bananas faster, place them in a paper bag with an apple. The apple's ethylene output will accelerate the process. To slow ripening, separate the bananas from the bunch and wrap each stem with plastic wrap. This simple trick can reduce ethylene release by up to 40%, extending shelf life. Once your bananas reach the perfect ripeness, you can refrigerate them for a maximum of 1 to 2 days if you must. The skin will darken, but the flesh will stay edible. However, a better option is to peel and freeze them. Frozen bananas are perfect for smoothies, as they create a creamy texture without the need for ice, and they retain far more nutrients than refrigerated bananas. Number 3. Onions. Putting whole onions in the refrigerator might seem harmless, but it's one of the most damaging mistakes you can make in food storage. The change starts almost immediately. Your refrigerator's humidity is usually around 95%, while onions need 65% or less to stay fresh. That extra moisture seeps through the onion's protective papery layers, creating the ideal breeding ground for mold. The worst offender is black mold, which produces aflatoxins, some of the most carcinogenic compounds known to science. But here's the catch. You might not see any mold at all before the damage is done. Even before visible mold appears, cold temperatures start converting the onion's natural starch into sugar. According to a Texas University study, onions stored in the refrigerator for just 2 weeks showed a 270% increase in sugar content. This shift completely changes their flavor and cooking properties, meaning your savory French onion soup could end up tasting unexpectedly sweet. The texture also takes a hit. In cold storage, ice crystals form inside the onion cells, rupturing them from within. The result is a mushy, soft onion that won't caramelize properly. Those deep golden brown onions you see in restaurant dishes? Impossible to achieve with refrigerated onions. How to store them instead? Keep whole onions in a cool, dry, and well-ventilated area, ideally between 45 degrees Fahrenheit and 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Avoid plastic bags, which trap moisture. Instead, use mesh bags, open baskets, or even clean pantyhose to allow airflow. And keep them far away from potatoes. The gases each releases make the other spoil faster. Direct sunlight is another enemy. It speeds up sprouting, which depletes the onion's flavor and nutrient content. Store them in a dark pantry or cellar for maximum shelf life. Once an onion is cut, it's a different story. Refrigeration is necessary. Store cut onions in airtight containers in the fridge and use within 7 days to prevent bacterial growth. But whole onions? Keep them out of the fridge entirely. Number 2. Tomatoes. This one surprises almost everyone. Refrigeration doesn't just ruin the taste of tomatoes, it damages them at the genetic level. Research from the University of Florida made a startling discovery. Chilling tomatoes below 54 degrees Fahrenheit deactivates hundreds of their genes, including those responsible for producing the compounds that give tomatoes their flavor. Once those genes shut down, they never fully recover. Even if you bring the tomato back to room temperature, the flavor loss is permanent. What you're left with is a tomato that looks fine but tastes flat and watery, essentially a red balloon with no real nutritional punch. For older adults, this is especially concerning. Tomatoes are one of the richest sources of lycopene, a powerful antioxidant that supports heart health and may help protect against certain cancers. Cold storage slashes lycopene availability by up to 65%. Worse still, lycopene needs specific enzymes to be absorbed by your body, and refrigeration destroys those enzymes, rendering even the remaining 35% almost useless. Under a microscope, the physical damage is obvious. Ice crystals form between the cell walls, puncturing them and turning the flesh mealy and grainy. This is why refrigerated tomatoes often feel sandy in your mouth. How to store them instead? Keep tomatoes at room temperature, stem side down to prevent moisture from entering through the stem scar and to block bacteria. The ideal range is 55 degrees Fahrenheit to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, away from direct sunlight, but not hidden in total darkness. Tomatoes still need a little indirect light to maintain their nutrients. Never put tomatoes in sealed plastic bags. The trapped ethylene gas accelerates rotting. Just one bad tomato can ruin the whole batch within 24 hours. Use ripe tomatoes within 3 to 5 days. If you have too many, make a sauce and freeze it. Cooked tomato products actually contain more bioavailable lycopene than raw, and freezing locks it in. Number 1. Avocados. We've saved the most heartbreaking for last. If you've been storing avocados in the fridge, you've been quietly destroying one of nature's most nutrient-rich foods. Avocados contain more than 20 essential nutrients, including healthy fats, especially oleic acid, which is crucial for brain health, particularly in seniors. But refrigeration triggers a process called lipid peroxidation, where these beneficial fats oxidize rapidly, producing harmful free radicals instead. According to researchers at Stanford University, refrigerated avocados lose 90% of their antioxidant activity in just 4 days. This means a sharp drop in vitamins E and C, nutrients that fight inflammation, protect your eyes, and help your body absorb other nutrients. The cold also activates an enzyme called polyphenol oxidase, the same enzyme that causes browning. But in the fridge, it works overtime, breaking down cell walls and converting healthy compounds into bitter, sometimes harmful substances. Texturally, the damage is irreversible. The creamy, buttery flesh becomes stringy and watery. The fats separate from the fiber, creating an oily mess that's impossible to mash smoothly. Try making guacamole with a refrigerated avocado, and you'll notice, it's ruined before you even start. How to store them instead? Keep unripe avocados at room temperature, 65 degrees Fahrenheit to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, in a bowl, never in a sealed bag. They need airflow to ripen evenly. To speed ripening, place them in a paper bag with a banana. The banana's ethylene gas can cut ripening time in half. Once ripe, you can refrigerate them for a maximum of 2 to 3 days if you absolutely must, but expect quality loss. A better approach? Buy avocados at different stages of ripeness, so you always have a perfect one ready to eat. If you cut an avocado and can't finish it, keep the pit in the unused half. Brush the flesh with lemon juice, and store it in an airtight container with a piece of onion. The onion's sulfur compounds help prevent browning without altering flavor. This method keeps avocado fresh for up to 2 days at room temperature. Now you know, your fridge isn't always your friend. Storing these foods the right way could mean more flavor, more nutrition, and better health for your golden years. But we want to hear from you. Have you been refrigerating any of these foods for years without realizing the damage? Or maybe you have your own storage tricks passed down through the family. Share your experiences and tips in the comments below. Your story might just help someone else. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a like, share it with friends and family, and subscribe so you won't miss our next health guide designed especially for seniors. Remember, Every small change you make today can lead to a healthier, happier tomorrow.